We won't wait.
We won't be paralyzed by what we see.
We won't run. We'll conjure up the courage we need to create solutions for our homeland.
Our
Africa.
We are #DIY Africa.
Welcome to #DIY Africa, presented by the Civic Tech Innovation Forum and Jamfest.
Obviously, we can talk about technology and share the massive success stories that we've shared. But at the same time, we understand that technology is not being used in an ideal society. It's being used in a society that comes with its own inequalities, its own challenges. And although we've witnessed how increasing access to the internet on the continent has resulted in an array of new strategies, success stories around activism and campaigning, especially with regards to how we collectively mobilize. I would like to ask each of you, and I'll start with you, Doug. From your experience, is technology democratizing advocacy in Africa?
I think it's a yes and no. I mean, there is no doubt that the increased, as you said, the increased access to the internet does lower the threshold for many people to get engaged in activism and advocacy across the continent. I think it's also been a powerful mechanism for connecting activists from different countries across the continent, and you really see emerging, a kind of a renewed sense of Pan-Africanism of activists across the continent standing in solidarity with one another. I think we saw that with Zimbabwean Lives Matter with the region really rallying around Zimbabwe, and many of those on this panel, participated in that. And then recently with Eswatini Lives Matter, kind of building off that with what's been happening over the border there. So to that extent, yes. And yet at the same time, I think we need to be very aware of, number one, that in a lot of African countries, I mean, Zimbabwe is the context that I know best, but I'm sure it applies across the board to a lot of other contexts. Internet penetration is low in some contexts. These things are inherently political, and there's different estimates. But estimates in Zimbabwe range between about 33% to around 60% internet penetration. That's still a huge. Either way you look at it, there's still a huge chunk of the population that doesn't have access to internet. When we start looking at social media numbers, that percentage is even smaller, and so we need to be aware that there are a lot of people who are still left out in the cold despite the advances in technology. And I think the other thing that we have really seen in recent years is how big dominant players, primarily the state in authoritarian contexts like ours, in Tariq's context, it's a big dominant player like a corporate like Amazon, can actually also use these online spaces sometimes in quite a toxic and abusive way, and which can make them not safe spaces. We've seen, I mean, in Zimbabwe, the regime hires like an army of trolls to attack people online. I mean, they invest big resources in this. The Varakashi, as they're called, even have cars. They have like branded cars. These are people whose sole job it is just to cause chaos online. So, I think that we need to really fight to defend those spaces and to keep them as spaces that are advancing kind of democracy and inclusivity of ordinary people in advocacy, while at the same time, seeking to address some of the structural challenges that keep a lot of people out of those spaces.
We'll do it ourselves. We are #DIY Africa.